Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Startup Sales. Really excited for this week's episode with Jason Wilmot. He's a growth hacker, and he's going to give us a lot of good tips and things on how we could grow our business through growth hacking. He's actually a school teacher that's gone into growth hacking a while ago and has done really well. And he's helped companies build 7 and 8 figure funnels. So it's really impressive. We're going to learn a lot from him, and let's get to today's episode.
Startup Sales is a podcast about what it's really like to get a business off the ground. We talk with founders, CEOs, and sales VPs from the high-tech market. You'll learn how to build and scale a sales team. You'll also hear about the growth challenges and tough decisions from others who have had both successes and failures. And now, your host of the Startup Sales Podcast, Adam Springer.
Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Adam, thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to just speak with you and your audience. So thanks for having me.
So, how did you go from a school teacher into growth hacking?
Many. I should say it's stumbling forward, failing forward in many ways. So yeah, I was a school teacher. I taught for 8 years. Actually, really liked my job. But looking back, it was still a job. I was still working for somebody else. And at the time that was fine because I enjoyed working with the students that I had. So I taught for 8 years. I taught 4th grade for 6 years, which is a pretty good age to be teaching kids because you can like, hey, can you go do that? You can talk to them like a little adult, or a little human where they have some independence. But then I did that for 6 years, and for a number of reasons, I kind of skipped out of that or chose to kind of move out of that. And for the last 2 years, I was teaching computer science. And during that time, I was getting my master's degree in administration. And, just to kind of give you a little bit of context at this, during the time, though, just like I was always frustrated in the educational setting because I don't feel like, being in the market now, it's hard to understand who the customer is in public education. I'm not, I come out swinging at public education. I don't mean that, but like the customer is the kids, and they should have way more say in everything that they do. And I really took that into account going into my final 2 years of teaching. So there was a confluence of a lot of things during that kind of transition time. One, I actually got into a pretty serious biking accident. I used to cycle to work, got hit by an automobile, and we don't have to get into that really. But during that time, I was out of work, and this was my 6th year of teaching, and I couldn't do a whole lot. Like I wore sunglasses inside. Like it was not good. Like I had a traumatic brain injury. I was going through a roundabout, and some car pulled out in front of me. I T-boned him. I hit my head. And I was pretty much out of work for the next 3 months after that. And kind of what I did during that time to just recuperate was think, even though I couldn't do a whole lot. And kind of the more that I thought about it, the more that I realized I didn't really like what I was doing. Or I didn't like the fact that I was handed a notebook and like, hey, do this, and I wanted to serve my customers. I wanted to have a cool place for kids to learn, and so I had this opportunity to hop into this computer science curriculum where there wasn't a whole lot of curriculum at the time, and so lo and behold, I pitched this professor. So I'm here in Lincoln, Nebraska, middle of the United States. If you've ever heard of it, congratulations. There's not a whole lot of folks who've visited Nebraska or been to Nebraska. But anyways, we've got good people here. And so I told this professor, I was like, hey, what do you think about teaching kids with Minecraft? What would that look like? And like the guy was just like, yep, I'm sold on it already. His kids played Minecraft. Like my kids were starting to dabble in it in the classroom. And so we were like trying to think through how could we actually teach kids through this platform? And that kind of unwrapped like the next 2 years of what I was doing in the computer science classroom, where we were spinning up servers. Kids were learning how to interact with people. And this was a high immigrant school. It's a Title I school. It's a poor school. And what's cool about a platform like Minecraft is like all the kids are equal. Doesn't matter if you speak English or not. Doesn't matter at all. If you're like fresh off the plane or ship, like we had kids all the time, they could come in and they could immerse themselves in this new world. And it was during that time that I started sharing a little bit about what I was doing. So I started sharing on Twitter, and I had some good big companies kind of take notice. I won $10,000 for my school from an organization called code.org. And then later on in the year, I was recognized by Apple as being a distinguished educator. Not a whole lot of teachers in the world can lay claim to that. Like, so that's a pretty select group, and I feel good about that. But the whole point being, like, while I'm in this, I feel like, okay, this is a little bit more about what education should be like, where kids are discovering, they're learning on their own. This is applicable to them. This makes sense to them. And then kind of behind all of this, the whole backstory was, and maybe this is more information than what your listeners, are interested in, but this was the driving force behind all of this. Like I said, there was a confluence of things happening. My wife and I were struggling with infertility for years. Like, we had been married at this point, it was 8 years, and we just still hadn't had kids. And we'd gone through IVF, which failed the first time that we went through it. And that's the story in and of itself. That's ups and downs and highs and lows and all this case. But like, point being, this 8th year of teaching, we finally got pregnant, and it was like all of these good things were going for us. I'd finished my admin degree. I could probably get a admin degree pretty easily. Had a lot of good recognition. Things were going well, but ultimately, kind of what I decided, or my wife and I decided, was like, if we want to do anything else, now is the time to do it. Right now is the time to make this jump. And I feel like this is probably very similar to a lot of people who are listening. Like, there comes a point in time where you decided, like, nope, I'm going to make this leap off of the cliff. I'm going to make this plane fly. It's not flying. I got to figure it out on the way down. And that was kind of the struggle. Now, I wish I could say that I had like this beautiful, like, the plane took off right away and everything was fine, but like, no, it wasn't. I struggled. I got right into, after I quit my job, I got right into digital marketing because I was pretty good with, either websites or automation and stuff like this. And I started doing anything and everything for folks, where I was building websites, I was doing social media optimization, I was doing blog writing, SEO, keyword research, you name it. Like, in the digital marketing world, I was probably doing it. But what I wasn't doing was, I wasn't working towards a good business plan. And I was too concerned with making money rather than solving problems. Right. So what is my niche? What is the area that I can go in and solve problems and go solve expensive problems? And like, lo and behold, like, this is kind of like, it's almost too good to be true. Like, I get this random call on Skype someday. Like, I'm 16 months into this entrepreneurship thing where I'm hustling and I'm using entrepreneurship life hashtags on Instagram, where you wake up scared every single day. But anyways, what I realized during this time, I got the phone call, and this gentleman was looking for somebody who was an ex-teacher and an educator who knew digital marketing. And I got to this startup. It was a Japanese startup run by a data engineer out of MIT. He was Canadian. And this was the aha that I got. It was, okay, companies want growth. They'll pay for growth. If I can be the person who brings businesses qualified leads and I can prove that they come from me, then that is worth everything in the world to them. And so all of a sudden I had this idea of, okay, here's what businesses want. They want growth. Can I bring it to them? Can I prove that it's coming from me? And when you can do that, then that makes, an incredible, that makes an incredible, relationship between you and the client, because it's good. It's just good for them. It's good for you. And so you help them grow, you get compensated. And ever since that, like, that was the aha that kind of sent me on the path of this growth hacking journey. I probably got a little bit off point there, but kind of trying to like wrap all of that together for you. So,
all right. So then let's look at it this way then. What is growth hacking, and why do companies and startups need it?
That's a really that's a big question to answer, but I think the way that I view it is this: like, when it comes down to growth hacking in my mind are trackable, scalable, automated systems of growth. So you have to be able to track it, right? You can't just, a blog post is not growth hacking, right? But you can use a blog post in order to measure the traffic coming in from it, measure the options, the conversions. The way that I kind of think about this is going back to my initial journey of, I was doing anything and everything for businesses. I was putting out content. It was kind of this death by doing. And when you flip it and you start thinking about growth hacking, it's more about asymmetrical output. How can I maximize the output, the effectiveness of this with minimizing the time? And it comes down to, can I track it? Can I scale it? And then can I automate it? And the biggest way that I like to use that is normally with paid ad advertising. It doesn't have to be through paid ads, but paid ads, what I found over the course, of the past 5 years of, helping businesses build 7-figure funnels and 8-figure funnels, like, paid ads are the thing. They're trackable. Your ROI down to the penny often. They're scalable. If an ad or inbound ad is something that's working, you just turn up the money, right? And then they're automated. You don't, you are not putting out, if you make video ads, for example, you're not live talking in front of the video. Like, you record it, you put it out there, and people respond to it. And if it's good, then you automate it. Like, so those are like the real key things that I come down to when it's talking about growth hacking. And the beautiful part about just paid ads is paid ads, like, they're on your phone. Like, if you go to a website, they're going to hit your phone up. They're going to get on your display. The ecosystem that people are involved in, especially now, like, they're just in front of their device. Can you put your brand in front of them, and can you measure it and track it and scale it? And paid ads is really, really, really hard to beat. So
where do I start if I want to start using paid ads for
Great.
my company?
Yeah, great question. Okay. So what I normally suggest to businesses is this: like, so I've done growth hacking in several different verticals, industries. Like, I've done e-commerce, I've done SaaS, I've done service-based, and I really, really appreciated all of them, because what I've learned from e-commerce is that there's intent, right? You have an intent to buy. And so you have to start thinking about what intent somebody has. So let's just say we're doing a traditional website where there's like a service, right? So it's the call to action is either, book a call, request a quote, something like that. The very first actionable thing that I would say is, like, listen, your business, your website, it's on your business cards. It's on every single marketing material that you've ever put out. Start first by advertising to the people who've already been to your website. Right? I guarantee, yeah, remarketing or retargeting, like, depends on what platform you're on. But yeah, it's like, I guarantee people have been on your website. They've started filling out the contact us form, but for some reason they bounced, right? There is intent. So if you can start understanding how people are displaying intent on your own website, then that's where you start. That's the lowest hanging fruit. Like, I would never turn on new traffic to a client or to my own website without retargeting in place, because you're already paying money to get them into your funnel. Let's say that they're 95% there. They just need like a final push. That's what retargeting and remarketing do.
Okay. So you retarget them. How do you do that? Is there like tools that you use, or?
Yeah. So I think and I should first address people like, retargeting doesn't work. Okay. Retargeting works, right? It works. Yes, you can drive up your costs and you can spend endless amount of money trying to retarget the wrong people, right? But there's beautiful parts about retargeting, specifically when it comes to platforms. So Facebook is king when it comes to retargeting, if that's your demographic, if it's a younger demographic, you might have to hop on Instagram and other things, but Facebook is incredible for remarketing and retargeting. Instagram is incredible as well. But here's where you start to get into other platforms. You can use settings on YouTube. If you use a CPV setting, if you go in, you create a campaign. I'll just tell you how to do it right
CPV?
Now. Cost per view, I believe. So you go in with a campaign. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to maximize the time in front of somebody before you get charged. So typically, you could get charged on YouTube when somebody just views your video for a number of seconds. There's certain there's certain settings within YouTube where if you create a campaign under the CPV setting, you get a full 29 seconds of free video in front of somebody. And the second they hit 30 seconds, then that's when you're charged. And you're going to get charged like 7 cents, 8 cents. And I don't know any business out there who wouldn't pay 7 or 8 cents to have a full 30 seconds. And on top of that, you can just keep on talking. So I run YouTube ads. And on average, I put out like a 3 or 4, maybe 6-minute video, and 20% of people watch that all the way through. So you can understand the benefits of that. Google display ads, for example, you never get charged on Google display ads until somebody clicks. So you can have impressions all day long. So there's really good hacks to each of these platforms. And so yes, start with YouTube retargeting. That's a moneymaker. And you don't have to have some professional video at all. You just have to be able to look into your phone and use something like the who, what, why, how method. Who are you? What do you have? Why does the viewer need it? And then how do they get it? And if you can just get in front of a phone and say that, that's incredible. And to that point, just after doing a lot of ads for a lot of people. So I've probably spent about $500,000 on paid ad platforms for myself and all my clients and everything. Way more of my clients, right? Point being, you would not believe just the amount of ads out there are just people holding their phones. And people find that really, really engaging. They find it authentic. And so, yeah, exactly. And so you don't have to have this, creative agency drum you up an incredible video. Obviously those are important when you need them. But if you are a startup, if you are just getting started, the threshold is set so low for you. Just do Google display ads. They're free until somebody clicks. Do YouTube. You get 29 seconds of audio for free, or video and audio for free. And then Facebook and Instagram, you're going to start getting charged there, but you'll probably find your best leads, your best bang for your buck with Facebook and Instagram. And you can get into LinkedIn, but that's a little bit harder. You got to have a lot more traffic to your website. So anyways, that's where I would start. And that's where I would encourage anyone and everyone to start with that.
And so what do you put in the video though? Do you just say, hey guys, look at our website, look how cool we are?
Yeah, exactly. Just that. Hey guys, this is me. No, I mean, you have to be able to speak to, I think I feel like I'm shouting into the mic. So sorry about that, Adam. I get a little excited here. Yeah, no, I think there are good scripts that you need to follow. You need to put in hooks. You need to present an offer to somebody. If you're on YouTube, you actually need to tell them to click through audibly. I think the platform, so to your point, the question is, what do we say to them? Well, it's different on YouTube than it is on Facebook, I think, right? Because on YouTube, people are already in this posture of consumption. They're already ready to listen. So if somebody's listening to this on YouTube, their audio is on. They know that they're going to get hit with an ad. So if you can use that first 5 seconds to draw them in with you can address their need, then you can continue to just serve them value throughout your video. Facebook and Instagram, it's a little bit harder. You're stopping somebody from scrolling. So maybe it has to be a little bit more dynamic. Maybe you just have to, put a different spin on it. But ultimately, I just like the method of who are you? What do you have? Why does somebody need it? And then how do they get it? That's a really good, simple format for a video or for an ad. My name is Jason.
All that? I'm sorry. You were probably just going to say, but do you want to address that all in the first 3-5 seconds?
Oh, that's hard to do in the first 3 to 5 seconds. So I think also it's important just to understand, is this a retargeting ad or is this a first time, right? So if it's retargeting, they're already familiar with you. They've already come to your website. So they're already a little bit more warmed up. And I actually in my retargeting videos, I drop the fourth wall because it's I teach people how to do this, right? And so it's hey, this is a retargeting or remarketing video. Did you know that you can use platforms like this to put your message out in front of people on autopilot? And it's just so you have to understand what this viewer is actually interested in. And so they came to your website for a reason. They want to learn more. And here is your chance to serve them. So I think the first 5 seconds, you have to kind of hook them. And then you got up to about 30 seconds where you can, continue to layer on value. And if they skip for any reason, you're not getting charged. And, perhaps they weren't interested anyways, or perhaps it's just not a very good ad. So there's always that too. Like
Or they just
crafting a
wanted
good
to see
ad.
the content they were watching.
Exactly. Like, hey, I want to watch Hot Ones or whatever whatever they're doing on YouTube. So shout out to Hot Ones. I don't know.
I don't even know what Hot One is.
You'll have to. It's celebrities eating spicy chicken wings. That's about as easy as I can put it. So it's a good one.
Sounds like a good
Oh,
place
God.
to put my time.
Exactly. Now that I say that out loud, I'm like, okay, all right.
All right, I'm embarrassed. I know what that is. All right, cool. So what's next? I've got ads. I've got the video ads out there on the different platforms. What do
Good.
I need to have?
Okay.
After that?
Well, I mean, if we're getting technical, what I do long before I even set up retargeting. So there's 3 stages that I like to build all of the funnels that I work in. It's tracking, retargeting, and then you put in the inbound. So you have to understand tracking across your website. And what I mean by tracking are when people come to your website, you have to identify like what is the main thing that you want them to do. What is your KPI? What are you trying to grow, right? The key to your business growing is your KPI, right? So on your website, Adam, it's contact us. I would imagine the more people that contact you, the greater, the greater it is that the greater the chances that your bottom line is going to grow, right?
Yeah.
And so what we have to do is we have to understand how to measure the contact us, right? We have to understand how to do that on Google Analytics, first of all. We have to understand how to pass that information to Facebook, how to pass that information to Twitter, to LinkedIn, to YouTube, to Google Ads, whatever you're like throwing traffic in, we have to be able to end the loop, right? So, this is where like a lot of people's eyes glaze over and like, oh God, this tracking thing, this isn't important. It's like, no, this is the difference, right? Because this is where everybody quits. Okay. They start throwing money online like, hey, Facebook ads are working or Google ads are working. Like, okay, great. Which ones are working? Like, I don't know, but let's keep spending money because it's working. Right. So when you set up tracking properly across all of these channels, like you're identifying your KPI or your main KPIs, there might be more than one, but let's just say this is like acquisition. You're just trying to acquire this lead. Let's just keep it as simple as that. You want to set up all of your tracking systems. You want to make sure that you've got goals created in Google Analytics. You have conversions created in Facebook, conversions created in Google Ads. And the best way that I do that is with Google Tag Manager. I would highly encourage everyone listening to use Google Tag Manager because it's free. You should be able to kind of replace an expensive backend web developers who are trying to do this for you. Like Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager is the thing that set me free and really, really allowed me to grow in all of this. And so you have to understand how you can actually track this, because when we start turning on traffic, even retargeting from YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, you need to know how much money you're spending, right? You need to know like YouTube, we spent this much, Facebook, we spent this much. And when you set up your tracking, you should know your ROI down to the penny. Like, yeah. And so that gives you that ability right back to the beginning of what you said. Like, is it trackable? Yes. Can we scale it? Yes. Like, okay, then let's automate it. Let's just turn up the YouTube ads. And so you start with tracking and then you layer on retargeting and then you start worrying about kind of the fresh inbound, top of funnel, first touch sort of pieces. So
sounds really scary. Sounds like a lot. How long, if I'm a fresh meat, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
How long would it take me to learn and implement this?
It depends on where you go to learn it, right? I think that's the big key. So I've spent a lot of money actually reverse engineering audits. Like I paid $6,500 for a Google Tag Manager audit to re-engineer, understand what was it, and really like set me on this path. It is difficult, like it's technical, but it's teachable, right? But again, this is where everybody quits. And yeah. here's if you can be the one who doesn't quit and you implement this, like, I mean, I feel like anybody can do this with the proper layout, the proper training in a week or 2 weeks, right? You can set all of this up. Retargeting, remarketing, the tracking, like it's what I do for businesses. I just set up their tracking. I set up their remarketing and the retargeting. Like that's what most businesses hire me to do, right? So you're trying to understand, like, your KPI, it's contact us, right? And so you're trying to set up your tracking across all of these things. Normally, you use a URL. Like the easiest way, and here's another little hack I should say for your audience. Here's how to track what is happening on your website. So let's say that you have a contact us button. You have a request a quote button. That opens up a form. When that form is complete, please don't have it collapse and not redirect to a new page. Have it redirect to a new page, okay? A page that somebody cannot organically navigate to. And so in your Google Analytics, like this is the power of thank you pages right here. So in your Google Analytics, you say, hey, anybody who has hit this thank you page, we know that they through my funnel and they hit this thank you page. You can't organically navigate to it. You have to come in, you have to hit this button, you have to submit it. And then if that URL reads in your browser, then we're going to tell Facebook, we're going to tell YouTube, we're going to tell Google, whatever it is, we're going to tell Google Analytics, this person hit this. And so the very first spot to start would be create a thank you page. And if you can start mapping who is coming to your thank you page, and that's going to give you like a lot of insight. So that's where the scary part is. Now, if you're in SaaS, you're probably going to want to use something like an event. Your CTO probably knows what an event is. And if they don't know what an event is, maybe you're in the wrong relationship with the CTO. An event is basically being like, okay, let's say you don't want to fire conversion on some thank you page URL. You want to fire an event when they click this button, right? It gets a little bit more interesting in SaaS, but they normally tend to get it a little bit quicker. But like in the service-based industry, or mine, or where there's a simple call to action, like it's not hard to track if you're using a dedicated page for all of your conversions. Did I clean that? Did I clean that up a little bit?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, good.
So most of the listeners are SaaS or tech founders, so I think they follow along with you on the event side.
Good. No, and I've worked with folks who they haven't used that, and that's like, but that would be the very first thing that you need to do. And if they're as long as they're listening, like I'm assuming most of them are using CRMs. You can use these things called UTMs, which are urchin tracking module links. Basically, it's like this. Okay. So if you send in a click to your website, just like hactics.com for my example, or let's go startupsales.io. Okay. And they hit your website, can you actually track what that person is doing once they get onto your website? If you're not using UTMs, you can't. So UTMs are basically these pieces that allow you to pass in more layers of information with all of your inbound clicks. And if people opt in, you can actually pass that into your CRM. And so kind of what people are doing when they're on your website, when they're opting in, that goes into your CRM, whether you're using Intercom or Salesforce or whatever, like you can pass all that information through. And that gives you, like, there's the tracking, right? Without a doubt that this person came from this ad, and that allows you to start spending more money to where you're acquiring the most visitors or users or leads, whatever terminology you're using for that.
It's interesting. Okay, so I couldn't agree more. As a salesperson, being able to track where the user came from, what they did on the website, it helps me so much when I'm going to approach them, because it will change my approach on knowing where they are and who they are. And so that's a really key point that you just said, and I really want to emphasize that's an important aspect to set up for your salespeople.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, if can I bounce on that one more time?
Yeah.
So the tracking is the component that will set you free. Like the proof is the biggest aspect that most businesses don't know that they can track their ROI down to the penny, right? And if once you can do that, that just allows you to start spending more money, because Google, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, like they're all pay to play platforms. So you have to pay money. So like mistakes, they literally cost you money, right? They literally cost you time. They literally cost you money. But where the people who excel in this game is they can just track their ROI. They just know. Like, so I worked with a client. Let me just hop into like a success story. So I had a client, and I can say his name. His name's Matt Rennerfelt. He runs Alpha Brewing Operations. I started working with him, and his business was revenuing $14 million a year, which is great. Nothing to shake a stick at. That's like pretty darn good. But he didn't have a funnel. And once we implemented a funnel for him, I helped his business grow by $10 million in 1 year. because we knew where the leads were coming in. We knew what we could scale. We put retargeting videos in front of people. So sometimes without a funnel, you're actually losing more money, which is crazy. You have a successful business, but you don't have this automated sales funnel. You're not passing any of this into your CRM. You can really increase your bottom line by layering in this money. And he knew, like, for every, dollar you're spending, you can return 5 or you can return 10. I've got another client. I helped his business grow, and I can't take credit for this at all, but I helped him build his tracking and remarketing, retargeting, and all of this stuff. He was spending $2,000 a month, and this is a SaaS company, $2,000 a month. And now he's spending $50,000 a month on ads because he can track exactly give Facebook money and that just prints me more, right? That's the beauty behind paid ads and growth hacking. But it all boils down to tracking. And if you're not tracking, then you're still flying blind at the end of the day. So sorry, I had to get that in there. So
oh, it's good. And it's really motivating because it shows that this stuff works as well. Obviously it works. Google wouldn't have a business. Facebook wouldn't have a business if it didn't. But hearing that these businesses are actually making it work, and it's not just the large enterprises, that you could do it.
Yeah. It's I just ran a 6-month report for an e-com client, and they're in the automotive industry. They make an automotive part. They're manufacturing. They're selling direct to consumer, and so they've got really good margins. And we spent $7,000 on Facebook ads and revenued $123,000. It's really hard to beat that. I don't, people may say naysay growth hacking and what that's all about. It's how else could you do that? It's gonna be hard to do mailers, right? Or TV ads to do that. It's no, it's real time direct response marketing. I see that this is working. I can just crank the budget.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy as that. You got to put out good ads and stuff like that. But you're right. If you have a good message, if you know your niche, if you know your message, and you can what's scary about all of these platforms is how much they know about us, right? And so they're putting this message in front of us, and it's so compelling because that resonates with us because it knows everything about us. So, so are we empowering these platforms by paying them money? That's kind of that's the other thing that I don't. That's the negative side about all of this. But I think, at the same time, I can't focus on that. I can focus on a lot of people that I've helped. Their lives are better. Their customers are happier. They have a better product. When you have margins in your business, you can give a better product. You can have more customer support. So you have to focus on those aspects of it. So
we all choose to have Facebook on our phone anyway, so that allows them to listen to us.
That's true.
Everything.
Oh gosh,
Jason, this has been really helpful, and
Yeah.
I think we could probably speak for 5-6 hours just to get into a tenth of what you
Sure.
know.
Sure.
But really appreciate you coming in and sharing with us. How can people reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing?
Sure. So they can visit so thank you for asking, first of all, Adam. And thanks for having me on. So they can learn more about me at my website, hactics.com, HACKTICS.com, or jasonwilmot.com. But basically, I teach people how to do this. So I kind of wear two hats where I'm coaching or I'm consulting, and the other half I'm coaching. And I put out tons of information on my YouTube channel and blog. So if you want to know more about this, it doesn't have to cost you anything. You can just look at the resources that I've put out.
And then be retargeted.
And then you know it, man. That's the way it works. I eat my own dog food. You have to, right? You have to. So
Excellent, Jason. Thanks again. It was really, really great.
Adam, thanks for having me on, sir. I do appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Startup Sales with Adam Springer. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Contact Adam about speaking engagements or consulting services at adam@startupsales.io.